In the winter of December 1944, Europe was freezing, and the world believed the war was nearing its end. But deep within the dense forests of Belgium, 250,000 German soldiers were preparing one last, desperate strike. Without warning, the sky erupted. The largest battle ever fought by the US Army began. Men froze, towns burned, and history stood on the brink. Welcome to Mine Cipher, where mystery meets history. Today, we journey into one of the most brutal and unexpected battles of World War II. This is the story of the Battle of the Bulge, Hitler's final gamble, and the clash that would shape the war's end. It was December 1944. Europe was freezing under one of the harshest winters of the century. The war, it seemed, was almost over. After the D-Day landings in June, Allied forces had pushed across France, liberating city after city. Paris was free. Brussels had fallen, and the Nazi army appeared to be on the edge of collapse. To the American and British troops resting in the dense forests of Belgium and Luxembourg, the war felt like it was winding down. Many soldiers believed they'd be home by Christmas, but behind the enemy lines, Adolf Hitler had other plans. His empire was crumbling. His generals were losing faith, and yet, he was not ready to surrender. In the depths of his mountain fortress, Hitler crafted a desperate plan, one that would strike directly through the Allied lines, divide their armies, and perhaps force them into negotiating peace. On Germany's terms, he called it Wacht am Rhein, the Watch on the Rhine. But history would remember it by another name, the Battle of the Bulge. Hitler's plan was bold, maybe even insane. He wanted to attack through the Ardennes, a region of dense forest, steep hills, and narrow roads. The Allies believed it was too difficult for large-scale warfare. They left it lightly defended, holding the line with inexperienced or exhausted troops. Hitler saw that as an opportunity. His goal: punch through the Allied lines, seize the port of Antwerp in Belgium, and cut the British and American forces in half. If successful, he could stall the Allied advance, and perhaps even change the course of the war. But it was a huge risk. Germany's army was running out of men, fuel, and supplies. Many generals, including Gerd von Rundstedt and Morel, warned Hitler that the plan was unrealistic, but Hitler's mind was set. He believed fate was giving him one last chance to strike. In the quiet forests of the Ardennes, American soldiers of the 99th and 106th Infantry Divisions were dug in along a 90-mile front. It was supposed to be a quiet sector, a place to rest and recover from months of fighting. They spent their days guarding bridges, writing letters home, and sharing whatever warmth they could find. One young soldier, Private Ralph, he wrote in a letter to his parents on December 14th. "It's cold, but peaceful here. The trees are heavy with snow, and it almost feels like home. We hear rumors the Germans are finished. Maybe this will be over soon." He didn't know that. Just across the forest, 250,000 German troops were quietly gathering, hidden by the mist and trees. To make his plan work, Hitler gathered everything he had left: panzer divisions, SS units, and even teenage soldiers from the Hitler Youth. They brought with them over 1,000 tanks, 2,000 artillery pieces, and some of the best remaining German commanders, including Sepp Dietrich and Joachim Peiper of the feared Waffen-SS. They were ordered to move only at night, to avoid detection from Allied aircraft. By mid-December, 3 German armies were in position, stretching from Monchaux in the north to Echternach in the south. On December 16, 1944, at 5:30 in the morning, the silence of the Ardennes was shattered. A deafening roar rolled through the forest as thousands of German artillery guns opened fire. Shells ripped through the snowy trees, exploding among American foxholes and camps. One survivor from the 106th Division recalled, "The whole earth just lifted up. We didn't know what was happening. It was like the world had exploded." Within hours, German tanks and infantry surged through the fog, hitting the American lines with overwhelming force. The US soldiers, caught completely off guard, scrambled to fight back. Many units were surrounded or cut off within the first day. Communications broke down. The weather was so bad that Allied planes couldn't take off. Snow and fog blanketed the battlefield, hiding the German advance. The attack was working. The Allies were stunned. As the German army punched deep into the Allied lines, a huge dent began to form on the map. A bulge that would give the battle its name. Entire towns fell one by one. Clairvaux, Saint-Vith, and Wiltz were overrun. Thousands of American soldiers were taken prisoner. German armored columns moved fast, capturing fuel depots and supply trucks as they went. In one report from an American unit, a radio operator sent a desperate message before being captured. "We are surrounded. Ammunition almost gone. God help us all." For the next few days, chaos reigned. Some American units held out here. Others were forced to surrender after exhausting every bullet. But amid the confusion, one town would soon become the symbol of resistance. Bastogne was a small Belgian town, strategically vital because it sat at the crossroads of 7 major roads. Whoever controlled Bastogne controlled movement across the Ardennes. By December 19th, the Germans had surrounded the town completely. Inside were about 10,000 American soldiers, mostly from the 101st Airborne Division, commanded by Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe. They were cut off from supplies, low on ammunition, and freezing in temperatures that dropped below -10 degrees Celsius. Still, they refused to surrender. When the Germans sent a message demanding their surrender, General McAuliffe famously replied with just one word: nuts. That single word became a symbol of defiance and courage across the Allied front. For the soldiers on both sides, the battle was a nightmare. Blizzards buried the dead. Frostbite and hunger were constant. Foxholes filled with snow and blood. Private Henry Manning of the 101st Airborne later wrote in his diary, "The cold was worse than the bullets. We burned anything we could find. Crates, doors, even our own rations. The sky was gray for days. No sun, no warmth, just the sound of distant gunfire." Meanwhile, German soldiers, many of them teenagers, fought with equal desperation. Corporal Eric Menzel wrote in a letter found later on his body, "They told us this would be our final victory, but I see only snow, death, and silence. The tanks keep moving, but I can't feel my hands anymore." Both sides were trapped in a frozen hell. Back at Allied headquarters, panic spread as reports of the attack came in. General Eisenhower realized this was not a small counterattack, it was a massive offensive. He ordered immediate reinforcements. General George S. Patton, whose Third Army was fighting further south, made a bold promise. He told Eisenhower he could turn his army 90 degrees north and reach Bastogne within 48 hours. Eisenhower was skeptical, but Patton did it. His troops began one of the most remarkable maneuvers of the war, moving through snow and ice to relieve the surrounded forces. As Patton's men advanced, the weather began to clear, and Allied planes finally returned to the skies. With the skies open again, American bombers and fighters launched devastating attacks on German supply lines and tanks. The Luftwaffe, once a fearsome air force, was no match. German fuel shortages grew worse. Their tanks began to stall in the snow. By Christmas Eve, the German advance had slowed dramatically. The bulge on the map was shrinking. The Allies were regrouping and ready to strike back. But the battle was far from over. The Ardennes forest, once quiet and peaceful, had become a graveyard of men and machines. Thousands lay frozen in the snow, some never found. In the words of one American soldier, written on a scrap of paper found after the war, "It wasn't about glory, it was about surviving another night." The Battle of the Bulge had begun as Hitler Lascambeau, a plan to divide the Allies and save his collapsing empire. But now, as 1944 drew to a close, it would become a test of endurance, courage, and the unbreakable will of those who refused to fall. This was only the beginning.